All right, we've got division of radicals, and we're going to simplify them. Before, if we had, so to rationalize a denominator means to get rid of the square root that's in the denominator. If we've got just a square root in the denominator, we multiply by the square root over the square root, and then we simplify. And that gets rid of the square root in the denominator. And that's if we have one term. If we've got two terms, what we have to do is multiply by the conjugate. So if we've got two terms, we multiply by the conjugate. What's the conjugate? Conjugate of a plus b is a minus b. Because when we multiply those together, we get a squared minus b squared. And we essentially square that term and square that term. And if we've got a square root in it, we get rid of the square root in either one of those by squaring them. So let's see how that works. Multiply by the conjugate. Okay, well, let's see. If I've got square root in the denominator, then if I had just one term there, I would multiply by square root 6 over square root 6. But because I've got square root 6 plus 2, what I have to do is multiply by square root 6 by the conjugate. Square root 6 minus 2 over square root 6 minus 2. And essentially what we're doing is multiplying by 1 here in the blue, but we're just calling it something different. Because now, let's look and see what happens to the denominator. Square root of 6 plus 2 times square root of 6 minus 2. Remember, if we've got a plus b times a minus b, we get a squared minus b squared. You can FOIL all this stuff out. In fact, we could probably do it over here. Square root of 6 plus 2 times square root 6 minus 2. If I'm going to FOIL that out, that would be the long way, but I'm going to suggest remembering that this is kind of the shortcut way. First multiplication is this one times that one. Square root of 6 times square root of 6 is square root of 36. Is 6. There's our first term. Outside term is that one times that one. Positive times negative, negative. 2 times square root 6 is 2 square root 6. Inside multiplication is positive times positive, positive. 2 times square root 6, 2 times square root 6. Last term, positive times negative, negative. 2 times 2, 4. And now these terms combine to become 0, and I have 6 minus 0 minus 4 is 2. And that's what happens to our denominator. It becomes 2. What happens to our numerator? Well, we've got 2 times all of this. I would have 2 times square root 6 times, or sorry, the next term would be 2 times negative 2 minus 4. And we're all set. We've got to keep in mind too that this would probably become, we've got to factor out a greatest common factor of 2. And we've got 2 times square root 6 minus 4, or sorry, minus 2. Erase that. Erase. Thank you. All over 2. 2's cancel out, and there's my answer. Square root of 6 minus 2. Keep in mind that that is just the foiling multiplication. There's my answer. Square root of 6 minus 2. All right, let's do this one. Let's see. If I have radical in my denominator, can't have it. And if I have just one term, I multiply by the radical over the radical. But I've got two terms, so I've got to multiply by the conjugate. Square root of 3. The conjugate of square root of 3 minus 1 is square root of 3 plus 1 over square root of 3 plus 1. The numerator becomes 6 times square root 3 plus 1 over, what does the denominator become? Here's our pattern. A minus b times a plus b times a minus b gives me a squared minus b squared. I've got an a term here, got a b term here, I got a minus and a plus. So my first multiplication is square root of 3 times square root of 3. That gives me my a squared would be 3. 1 squared is 1. 1 is my b term, squared is my second term in a multiplication. I got a minus between them, and there's my simplified answer. So now I got 6 times square root 3 plus 1 over 3 minus 1, 2. 6 and 2 can cancel, simplify, factor out, reduce. 6 divided by 2 is 3 times square root 3 plus 1. And if you left it like that, that'd be okay. You could also say, let's distribute that. It'd be 3 square root 3 plus 3. Either one of these would be an okay answer. This one would be more elegant. All right. We're going to leave it at that because that's going to be about what we need. Down here we got a really complex answer that gets a little bit more complicated, so we're not going to get to that one.